Distress signal. Jiwan and Minji were ordered to stay in their quarters, but information reached them anyway through the ship's internal communications. A Vorath colony ship had suffered a catastrophic systems failure. Nearly 300 civilians were trapped aboard with failing life support. The air recycling system was damaged, and the temperature controls were unstable. Worse, the same respiratory illness that was spreading through the Eternal Fang had infected the colony ship weeks ago. "They're dying," Minji said, reading the medical reports that Deho had quietly sent to her tablet. "The combination of poor air quality and the suppressed immune responses is creating a perfect storm." Jiwan paced their small quarters, feeling helpless. There has to be something we can do. A knock on their door interrupted his thoughts. When he opened it, he found Scout Captain Velrin standing there. The Vorath officer looked tired and his breathing seemed labored. "The High Commander requests your presence in the medical bay," Velrin said. "We are forming rescue teams, and your Dr. Deho says you may be useful." They followed Velrin through the corridors. The ship was buzzing with activity as warriors prepared for the rescue operation. But Jiwan noticed something else. Many of the Vorath were moving slowly, breathing hard, trying to hide signs of illness, even as they prepared for a dangerous mission. In the medical bay, chaos reigned. Dr. Deho was organizing medical supplies while several human engineers from Earth prepared emergency equipment. A tall human woman in surgical scrubs was directing Vorath medics, her voice calm but firm. "That's Dr. Bora," Deho said when he saw Jiwan and Minji arrive. "She arrived last week as part of the surgical team. Bora, these are our diplomats." Bora nodded quickly but did not stop working. "We need all hands. The colony ship's medical bay is overwhelmed. We're setting up triage stations on both ships." Another human, this one younger with nervous energy, rushed past carrying equipment cases. "Where do these go?" he asked. "Shuttle Bay 3 Sunwoo," Deho called back, "and secure them properly this time." Sunwoo grinned despite the tension. "Yes, sir." He noticed Jiwan and Minji and gave them a quick wave before hurrying off. High Commander Threxus entered the medical bay, his presence commanding immediate attention. "Status report," he demanded. "We're ready to launch rescue shuttles in 10 minutes, Deho replied. "But Commander, we need to talk about the illness. The colonists are in bad shape, and it's the same respiratory infection we've been treating here." "We will evacuate the most critical patients first," Threxus said firmly. "Treatment protocols will follow standard procedures." "Standard procedures won't work," Minji said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "Commander, the illness is being made worse by Vorath cultural practices. The patients need to cough and sneeze to clear their lungs, but they're suppressing those responses. It's killing them." The silence that followed was heavy and dangerous. Threxus's golden eyes narrowed. "You dare to suggest that Vorath culture is flawed?" "I'm suggesting that biology doesn't care about culture," Minji said, standing her ground. "The virus is simple. The treatment is simple. But the treatment requires patients to stop fighting their own immune systems." Threxus took a step toward her, and for a moment Jiwan thought the commander might actually strike her. But Dr. Bora stepped between them. "She's right," Bora said calmly. "I've been reviewing the medical data. Every Vorath patient who has allowed natural respiratory responses has recovered faster and more completely. Those who continue to suppress symptoms are deteriorating. This is not a matter for humans to decide," Threxus said coldly. "Then who will decide?" Jiwan asked. "The colonists who are too sick to speak? The children who don't understand why they feel like they're suffocating?" Before Threxus could respond, an urgent message came through. The rescue teams were launching. The argument would have to wait. Jiwan found himself assigned to one of the rescue shuttles along with Sunwoo, several Vorath warriors, and medical equipment. As they approached the damaged colony ship, he could see the extent of the damage through the viewport. The hull was scorched and torn, with emergency patches barely holding the atmosphere inside. The shuttle docked, and they entered the colony ship. The conditions inside were terrible. The air was thin and stale, emergency lights flickered, and the temperature felt wrong. Vorath civilians huddled in groups, many of them clearly ill. Children clung to their parents, their golden eyes dull with sickness. "Medical teams this way," Sunwoo called out, his training taking over despite his obvious nervousness. They set up a triage station in what used to be the ship's dining hall. Bora and the Vorath medics began examining patients, prioritizing who needed immediate evacuation. Jiwon helped organize the civilians, trying to keep families together while maintaining some order. Then he saw her, little Pip, standing in a corner with an elderly Vorath male. The old Vorath looked weak but protective, one arm around the cub. Pip's eyes widened when she recognized Jiwon. "What are you doing here?" Jiwon asked, hurrying over. "My father sent me away when the illness spread on the Eternal Fang," Pip said quietly. "He thought I would be safer on the colony ship. This is Elder Thrak. He was taking care of me." Elder Thrak coughed, a deep, painful sound that he tried desperately to suppress. His whole body shook with the effort of controlling it. "Please," Jiwon said gently. "You need to let yourself cough. Your body is trying to clear the infection." "I am Vorath," Thrak said weakly. "I do not show weakness, even in death." Pip looked up at the old Vorath with tears in her huge eyes. "Please don't die, Elder Thrak. Please." Jiwon called for Minji, who came quickly with her medical scanner. She examined Thrak and shook her head. "His lungs are filling with fluid. If he doesn't cough it out soon, he'll drown." "Then make me unconscious," Thrak said. "My body will cough when I cannot control it." "That's insane," Minji protested. "You don't need to be unconscious, you just need to cough." "I will not," Thrak said firmly. "I would rather die with honor than live with shame." Pip started crying openly now, something Jiwon had never seen a Vorath cub do. "But Elder Thrak, you told me stories. You said the old Vorath, the ancient ones, they sneezed when flowers tickled their noses. You said they coughed when dust filled the air. You said it was natural." Thrak looked down at the cub, surprise in his tired eyes. "You remember those stories?" "I remember everything you told me," Pip said. "You said the warrior codes came later. You said our ancestors laughed when someone sneezed unexpectedly, just like the human did." Jiwon felt something shift in the moment. He knelt down beside Pip and Thrak. "Is that true? Did ancient Vorath really treat sneezing differently?" Thrak was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he finally admitted. "Before we became warriors, before we built an empire, we were just people. We sneezed and coughed and laughed about it. The rigid control came later when we needed discipline to survive. But we paid a price for that survival." "Then maybe it's time to remember the old ways," Jiwon said softly. "Not to abandon strength, but to understand that true strength includes accepting what's natural." Thrak looked at Pip's tearful face. Then he looked at Jiwon. And slowly, deliberately, he let himself cough. The sound was terrible and painful, but when it ended, he could breathe a little easier. He coughed again, and fluid began to clear from his lungs. Pip watched with wide eyes, not with shame, but with hope. Around them, other Vorath civilians had stopped and were watching. They had heard every word. And Jiwon realized that this moment, right here in this damaged ship, might be more important than any official ceremony. Back aboard the Eternal Fang, High Commander Threxus stood in the main assembly hall watching video feeds from the colony ship. His daughter was there. His people were dying there. And humans were telling him that 1,000 years of Vorath tradition was wrong. Dr. Deho approached him carefully. "Commander, we need to talk about a treatment plan. The colonists are deteriorating rapidly." "Then use your human medicines," Threxus said, not taking his eyes off the screens. "The medicines won't work if the patients keep fighting their own immune systems," Deho replied. "We need to address the root cause." Scout Captain Velrin joined them, moving slowly. He looked exhausted, and Threxus noticed for the first time how labored his breathing had become. His most trusted officer was sick and he had been hiding it. "Velrin," Threxus said quietly. "How long?" 3 weeks, Commander," Velrin admitted. "I thought I could overcome it through will and discipline." I was wrong. The admission hung in the air between them. For a Vorath warrior to confess weakness to his commander was almost unthinkable. But here they were with hundreds of lives at stake. "What do you propose?" Threxus asked Deho, his voice heavy. "A demonstration?" Let us show your people that sneezing and coughing are not shameful. Let us prove that accepting these natural responses leads to healing, not weakness. You want my warriors to deliberately lose control of their bodies? Threxus said, anger flaring. In front of the entire crew? I want your warriors to live, Deho replied simply. And I want the colonists to live. But they won't unless we change how they think about this. Threxus was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision that went against everything he had been taught. Assemble everyone in the main hall. Both ships via video feed. We will try this human solution. An hour later, the assembly hall was filled with Vorath warriors and crew members. Video screens showed colonists from the damaged ship watching as well. The atmosphere was tense and confused. No one understood why they had been summoned. Jiwan stood on the raised platform with Minji, Deho, Bora, and several other humans. His heart was pounding. This was either going to change everything or destroy whatever trust they had managed to build. Threxus stepped forward and addressed his people. We face a crisis. The illness that has spread through our fleet is killing our people. The humans have identified the cause and proposed a solution. I have decided to allow them to demonstrate this solution, and I expect you all to watch and learn. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the crowd. Threxus stepped back and Jiwan took a deep breath before speaking. My name is Jiwan. I'm here as a representative of Earth. We have something to show you, something that might seem strange or even shameful by your standards. But I ask you to watch with an open mind. Minji had prepared a mild irritant, something that would trigger a sneeze without causing any harm. It was derived from earth flowers, similar to the ones that had made Pip sneeze days ago. On Earth, when someone feels the need to sneeze or cough, we don't fight it, Jiwan explained. We let it happen. We understand that our bodies are protecting us, clearing away things that don't belong. There's no shame in it, watch. He took a small sniff of the irritant. The tickle in his nose built quickly and then he sneezed. It was a perfectly normal human sneeze. He smiled afterward, see? I'm fine. Actually, I feel better. My nose was a little irritated and now it's clear. One by one, the other humans demonstrated. Minji sneezed and laughed about it. Deho coughed deliberately, explaining how it cleared his throat. Bora sneezed twice and said, "Excuse me," politely. Sunwoo made a joke about allergies while sneezing into his elbow. A young human engineer named Hyun was the last to go. She sneezed so forcefully that it made her stumble a little, and she laughed with embarrassment. "Sorry, that was a big one," she said cheerfully. The Vorath watched in stunned silence. They had never seen anyone treat involuntary responses so casually without shame or hiding. Then something happened that no one expected. Little Pip climbed onto the platform. She had been evacuated from the colony ship with the other critical patients. She walked right up to Jiwan, her small face determined. "I want to try," she said clearly. The entire hall went silent. Threxus moved forward, alarm on his face. "Pip, no. You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," Pip said, looking at her father. "Father, I'm scared." "Everyone is scared." But Elder Thrax said the old Vorath weren't afraid of sneezes. He said it was natural. "I want to try the natural way." Threxus looked at his daughter, and for the first time Jiwan saw the commander's rigid control crack. There was fear in his eyes and love and terrible uncertainty. "If you do this," Threxus said quietly, "others will see it. The entire fleet will know." "Good," Pip said simply. "Maybe they'll try it too. Maybe they'll stop being sick." Minji knelt down beside Pip with the mild irritant. "Are you sure? You don't have to do this if you're scared." "I'm scared," Pip admitted. "But I'm more scared of being sick forever. I'm more scared of Elder Thrak dying. I'm more scared of my father being ashamed of something natural." She took a small sniff of the irritant. The effect was almost immediate. Her small nose twitched, her eyes watered slightly, and then she sneezed. It was tiny and squeaky, just like the first time, and Jiwan laughed. That same warm, delighted laugh, but this time he wasn't the only one. Pip looked up at him and giggled. The sound was bright and clear, a child's laugh without shame or fear. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. A Vorath cub was laughing about losing control and she wasn't being punished for it. "How do you feel?" Minji asked gently. Pip took a deep breath. "Better, my nose feels better." It was tickling and now it's not. She looked at her father. "Father, I'm okay. I'm really okay." Threxy stood frozen, watching his daughter. Every instinct told him this was wrong, that control and discipline were the Vorath way. but he could see the relief in Pip's eyes, the ease of her breathing. Scout Captain Velrin stepped forward. "Commander, request permission to try the human method." Everyone turned to stare at him. For a senior officer to volunteer for something so shameful was unthinkable. "Velrin, you don't have to," Threxus began. "Yes, I do," Velrin said. "I've been sick for 3 weeks. I've hidden it, fought it, suppressed every symptom, and I'm getting worse. If this works, if this human method can help me serve better, then my pride means nothing." He walked to the platform and accepted the irritant from Minji. He used it, and moments later, he sneezed. Then he coughed, deep and hard, clearing fluid from his lungs. It was painful to watch, but when it ended, he stood straighter. He breathed easier. "It works," Velrin said, wonder in his voice. "By the ancestors, it actually works." Another Vorath stepped forward, then another. Young warriors, old veterans, medical staff, engineers, they formed a line, waiting their turn to try this strange human solution. Threxus watched his people abandon 1,000 years of tradition in a matter of minutes. He watched them sneeze and cough and slowly, carefully begin to smile about it. He watched his culture transform before his eyes, and then he saw the medical readouts on the screens. The colonists who had been dying were stabilizing. The warriors who had been hiding illness were showing improvement. The virus was being cleared naturally, just as the humans had said. Threxus looked at G1, and for the first time, there was something other than suspicion in his golden eyes. There was respect, maybe even gratitude. "You have given my people a gift," Threxus said quietly. "You have shown us that we were hurting ourselves. That takes courage." "Pip showed the courage," G1 replied. "And Elder Thrak and Velrin. We just offered the information. Your people chose to accept it." As evening approached, the assembly hall had become an impromptu celebration. Vorath were sneezing deliberately, laughing about it, comparing whose sneeze was loudest or squeakiest. It was chaotic and undignified and completely wonderful. By nightfall, they were all sneezing on purpose. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the Vorath were learning to laugh at themselves. 3 months passed like a dream. Everything changed after the proving. The Valthrine did not leave. Instead, more of their ships came. They wanted to learn. They wanted to understand. Kresh spent half his time on the human ship now. He followed Jiwoo everywhere. She taught him about human science. He taught her about Valthrine culture. They were an odd pair, a human woman and an alien child. But they fit together somehow. Minho had become Kresh's favorite person after Jiwoo. The engineer taught the young Valthrine how to solve puzzles, how to fix broken things, how to think in new ways. Kresh was smart, very smart. He learned fast. Today, Minho and Kresh were in the engine room. They were working on a small robot together. Kresh's fur glowed bright gold. He was happy. "If I connect this wire here," Kresh said, his human words getting better every day, then the robot should move forward. "Try it," Minho said. Kresh connected the wire. The robot moved. Then it spun in a circle. Then it fell over. Both of them laughed. "Almost," Minho said. "But we need to balance the weight better." "See?" Kresh nodded. His 4 eyes watched carefully as Minho adjusted the robot. This was different from how Valthrine learned. Back home, young ones learned by watching adults hunt, by fighting, by proving themselves. But here, learning was gentler. More patient. Kresh liked it better this way. In the medical bay, Hana was checking Kresh's blood again. She did this once a week now. The young Valthrine's condition was completely stable, better than stable. He was thriving. "This is interesting," Hana said to Jiwoo. "His blood markers show less stress than when we first met him. Much less. I think being in a supportive environment is helping him heal in ways the medicine alone could not." Jiwoo smiled. "Sometimes the best medicine is not a chemical. Sometimes it is just knowing you are safe, that you are wanted." Hana nodded. She looked at her friend. "You did a good thing, Jiwoo. A dangerous thing, but a good thing." A message came through on Jiwoo's communication device. It was from Commander Park. He wanted to see her in his office. It sounded important. When Jiwoo arrived, Park was not alone. Elder Vryn was there too, and another Valthrine she did not recognize. This one was older, with fur that was almost completely silver. "Jiwoo," Park said. "This is Matriarch Sarah. She is Kresh's birth mother." Jiwoo's heart beat faster. She had not expected this. She bowed slightly. The way Vryn had taught her was respectful. The matriarch looked at Jiwoo with all four eyes. Her fur was a calm gray. You saved my son. I only gave him medicine, Jiwoo said. No, you gave him more than that. You gave him trust. You gave him a reason to live without shame. In our culture, this is the greatest gift. The matriarch stepped closer. Her claws were retracted. Her posture was open. I come to offer something. It is rare, very rare, but you have earned it. What is it? Jiwoo asked. I wish to adopt you into our pack. Not as a subordinate, as family, as Kresh's shield sibling. This means you and he are bound by choice, not by blood. But the bond is just as strong, perhaps stronger. Jiwoo felt tears in her eyes. She had not expected to feel this way. She had lost her brother so many years ago. The pain had never fully gone away, but now here was a chance at something new, not a replacement. Never that, but a new bond. A new family, I accept, Jiwoo said. I would be honored. The matriarch's fur turned bright gold. She pressed her forehead against Jiwoo's. It was a gesture of deep affection. Welcome to our pack, shield sister. Later that day, there was a ceremony. Both species gathered, humans and Valthrine together. The hall was decorated with symbols from both cultures. It was beautiful. Vryn stood in the center. He had become something like an ambassador between the two peoples. His voice carried through the room. Today we celebrate a new beginning. For too long, my people believed that strength came from standing alone, from being the strongest, the most dominant. But this human Jiwoo has shown us a different truth. Strength comes from standing together, from protecting those who need protection, from choosing sacrifice over survival. He gestured to Jiwoo and Kresh. They stood together. The young Valthrine barely came up to Jiwoo's shoulder, but he stood proud, happy. These two have formed a bond that crosses species. It is a bond of choice, of love, and it is changing both our peoples. Vryn pulled out a datapad. He had been writing something important. I have published a new treatise. It redefines what we thought we knew about apex predators. We thought the ultimate predator was the one who could survive alone, who needed no one. But we were wrong. The ultimate predator is the one who makes everyone around them stronger, who protects the weak, who builds alliances, who cooperates. He looked directly at the humans. That is what you are. You are the strange new apex of this galaxy, not because you are the strongest fighters, but because you are the strongest cooperators. The Valthrine in the room made sounds of agreement. Their fur shifted to that new color, the one that had appeared during the proving. Gold and blue together, a color that meant something new, something that had not existed before humans and Valthrine met. Commander Park stepped forward. He held a glass of water. It was symbolic, simple, but meaningful. To new alliances, Park said. To new understanding. To the future, he drank from the glass. Then he passed it to War Master Grell. The large Valthrine hesitated. Then he drank too. Then the glass passed to Vryn, to the matriarch, to Therax, to all the Valthrine leaders. When it came to Kresh, the young one looked at it. Then he looked at Jiwoo. She nodded. He drank without fear, without hesitation. After the ceremony, Jiwoo stood at her favorite spot, the observation window. She looked out at the stars. Both ships were visible now. Human and Valthrine, flying together, working together. Kresh found her there. He always did. He pressed against her side. His fur was warm. It glowed softly in the dim light. What are you thinking? He asked. His human words were almost perfect now. I am thinking about how strange life is. A few months ago, I did not know your people existed. Now you are my brother. Kresh made a happy sound. Is that a good thing? It is the best thing, Jiwoo said. They stood together in silence for a while. Then Kresh spoke again. I was so scared when I was sick. I thought if I took the medicine, everyone would know I was weak. They would reject me. I would be alone. Jiwoo put her arm around him. But you're not alone. No, Kresh agreed. Because you showed me something. You showed me that asking for help is not weakness. That accepting care is not shameful. You drank first. You took the risk. And that made me brave. Sometimes, Jiwoo said softly, the bravest thing you can do is let someone help you. Commander Park approached them. He had news. Jiwoo, I have an assignment for you. The Valthrine have proposed a new program. They want to create an exchange. Young Valthrine who are struggling with medical issues or social challenges will come to human ships. We will foster them, help them, show them that accepting help is okay. Jiwoo's eyes went wide. That is wonderful, and they want you to lead it. They are calling it the Interspecies Integration Program. You will be the director. Jiwoo looked down at Kresh. He was smiling. His fur was that new color, gold and blue mixed together. What is that color called? Jiwoo asked. I have never seen it before you came. Rin appeared from behind them. He had been listening. That color has a new name now. We call it human hope. It is what we feel when we realize we do not have to be alone, that we can be vulnerable, that we can trust. The old Valthrine looked out at the ships flying together. You have changed us, not just Kresh, all of us. You have shown us that there is another way to be strong. Word spread quickly through the galaxy. Other species heard about the human-Valthrine alliance. They were curious. Some were suspicious, but many wanted to learn more. The humans were no longer seen as strange prey animals who somehow built spaceships. They were seen as something new, something the galaxy had never encountered before. Apex predators who protected instead of destroyed, who built up instead of tearing down. Jiwoo accepted the position as director. Her first act was to create a symbol for the program. It was simple. 2 handprints. 1 human, 1 Valthrine, overlapping. Under the symbol were words in both languages. Together, we are stronger. Months later, Jiwoo stood in front of a large group. There were 10 young Valthrine now. All of them had come to learn the human way. All of them had challenges, medical problems, social difficulties, fear, but they were here. They had chosen to come, to trust, to try. Kresh stood next to Jiwoo. He was helping now, teaching the new ones, showing them it was okay to ask for help, that accepting care was not shame. The next morning, Jiwon woke to the sound of the ship systems humming through the walls. Everything on the Eternal Fang was efficient and precise, just like its crew. He dressed in his Earth diplomatic uniform and met Minji in the small common area between their rooms. I barely slept, Minji said. She was already working on her tablet, reading through files about Vorath culture. I keep thinking about yesterday. There's something deeper going on here. A message appeared on their door panel. They were summoned to the medical bay to meet with the ship's doctor. Jiwon hoped this meant they might have a chance to learn more about the Vorath, and maybe repair some of the damage from yesterday. The medical bay was clean and organized, filled with strange equipment Jiwon did not recognize. A human doctor stood near one of the examination tables reviewing information on a screen. He was older, maybe in his mid-40s, with gray streaks in his dark hair. You must be Jiwon and Minji, the man said without looking up. I'm Dr. Daeho. Earth sent me here 6 months ago as part of the medical exchange program. It's good to meet another human, Minji said warmly. How has it been working with the Vorath? Daeho finally looked up and his expression was tired. Difficult. They don't trust easily, and they have very strict ideas about medicine and health. He paused, then added quietly, I heard about what happened at the welcome ceremony. News travels fast, Jiwon said. On a warship, everything travels fast, Daeho replied. But I did not call you here to talk about that. I need to show you something, and I need you to keep it confidential. He led them to a private room at the back of the medical bay. Inside, a Vorath warrior sat on an examination table looking uncomfortable. His breathing was rough and labored, and his golden eyes were dull with fatigue. This is Medic Kryn, Daeho explained. He's one of the Vorath medical officers. He came to me secretly last night. Kryn looked at the 2 humans with obvious shame. I am unwell, he said, his voice rough. But I cannot report to my own medical staff. They would see it as weakness. He has a respiratory infection, Daeho continued. And he's not the only one. I've had 7 Vorath come to me in secret over the past 3 weeks. They're all suffering from the same illness, but they won't let themselves show symptoms in public. Minji pulled out her scanner and asked permission to examine Kryn. The Vorath nodded reluctantly. As she worked, Jiwon asked questions. What do you mean they won't show symptoms? Exactly what I said, Daeho replied. They suppress everything. Coughing, sneezing, any sign that they're sick. They force their bodies to hide the illness until they can't anymore. That's why the cub was so ashamed yesterday, Minji said suddenly, still scanning Kryn. Sneezing is seen as losing control of your body. It goes deeper than that, Kryn said quietly. In Vorath culture, any involuntary physical response is considered a failure. We are taught from childhood to control everything, Warriors who cannot control their bodies are not fit for service. Jiwon felt a chill run down his spine. But that's impossible. Everyone coughs and sneezes sometimes. It's how the body protects itself. Tell that to 1,000 years of Vorath military tradition, Daeho said bitterly. I've tried. They don't listen. Minji finished her scan and reviewed the results. This is interesting. The infection is actually quite mild. In a human, it would clear up in a few days with rest and fluids. But Krin's body is fighting itself. By suppressing the natural responses like coughing and sneezing, he's preventing his immune system from clearing the virus effectively. Can you treat it? Krin asked, hope flickering in his tired eyes. Yes, but you need to stop suppressing your symptoms, Minji explained. Your body needs to cough and sneeze to expel the virus. Fighting against those reflexes is making you sicker. Krin's ears flattened. I cannot do that. If others see me lose control, I will be removed from service. My family would be shamed. After treating Krin as best they could and sending him away, the three humans sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Daeho spoke. This is bigger than one sick warrior. There's an epidemic spreading through the ship, but no one will admit it, because admitting illness means admitting weakness. Jiwon spent the rest of the day thinking about the problem. He took a walk through the ship's corridors, observing the Vorath crew. Now that he knew what to look for, he could see the signs. A warrior whose breathing was slightly too shallow. Another whose eyes were dull and tired. A third who moved more slowly than the others. They were all sick and they were all hiding it. In the evening, Jiwon returned to his quarters and found someone waiting outside his door. It was the little cub from yesterday. She stood there nervously, looking up at him with those huge golden eyes. Hello, Jiwon said gently, crouching down to her level. What's your name? Pip, she whispered. I'm not supposed to be here, but I wanted to ask you something. What is it? Why did you laugh? Yesterday when I lost control. Why did you laugh instead of looking away? Jiwon thought carefully about his answer. On Earth, we think sneezes are natural and normal. When someone sneezes, especially a child, we don't think they've done anything wrong. Sometimes sneezes are funny because they're unexpected. I laughed because you surprised me, and because I thought you were brave for standing so close to those flowers. Pip's eyes widened. Brave? Very brave. You were curious about something new and different. That takes courage. But I lost control of my body. That's shameful. Not to humans, Jiwon said softly. To us, your body was just protecting you from the strong smell. It was doing its job. That's not shameful at all. Pip sat down on the floor, thinking about this. My father says I must learn better control. He says warriors cannot afford weakness. Your father is High Commander Threxus? She nodded. He's very strong. He never loses control. I want to be like him. Before Jiwon could respond, a sharp voice echoed down the corridor. Pip, come here at once. Threxus appeared around the corner, his face dark with anger. Pip jumped to her feet and ran to her father, keeping her head down. Threxus put a hand on her shoulder and glared at Jiwon. You will not speak to my daughter, Threxus said coldly. You will not fill her head with your human ideas about weakness and acceptance. Is that understood? I meant no offense, Jiwon began, but Threxus cut him off. Stay away from her. Stay away from all Vorath families. You are here as observers only, not as teachers of culture. Threxus led Pip away, and Jiwon watched them go. Just before they turned the corner, Pip looked back at him one more time. Her expression was confused and thoughtful. That night, Minji and Jiwon sat together reviewing what they had learned. The pieces were starting to fit together, but the picture they made was troubling. This culture is making them sick, Minji said. Literally making them sick. They're so afraid of showing weakness that they're hurting themselves. And we can't just tell them that, Jiwon added. They'll see it as us criticizing their entire way of life. But if we don't do something, this epidemic is going to get worse. Just then, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Red lights began flashing in the corridors. A voice came over the speakers, speaking in the Vorath language. Jiwon's translator device picked up the words. All personnel to stations. Distress signal received from colony ship in Sector 7. Prepare for emergency response. Jiwon and Minji looked at each other. Whatever was happening, they were about to be thrown into the middle of it. And somehow Jiwon had a feeling that the epidemic on this ship was about to become a much bigger problem. Welcome, Jiwoo said to the new arrivals. You are safe here. You are wanted here. And you will never be alone. The young Valthrine looked at her. Their fur was various shades of blue and gray. Uncertainty, fear, but also hope. One of them, a small female, spoke. "Is it true what they say? That you drank poison to save Kresh?" Jiwoo smiled. "It was not poison. It was medicine, but yes. I drank first to show him it was safe." "Why?" the young female asked. "Why would you risk yourself for someone you barely knew?" Jiwoo knelt down so she was at eye level with the young one. "Because he needed help. And because sometimes the only way to build trust is to be vulnerable first. To show that you are willing to risk yourself. That is what family does. That is what friends do." The young female's fur began to change. From blue to amber, from fear to curiosity. "Can we be family too?" "Yes," Jiwoo said. "We already are." That evening, Jiwoo returned to the observation window. Her favorite place. Kresh was with her as always. The stars looked different now. "Not cold, warm, full of possibilities. Do you think we changed them?" Kresh asked. "The Valthrine, I mean. Do you think we are different now because of humans?" Jiwoo thought about it. "I think we changed each other. You taught us about strength and honor. We taught you about compassion and cooperation. Together we are better than we were apart." Kresh's fur glowed with human hope, the beautiful color that meant trust. That meant family. That meant everything was going to be okay. In the galaxy there were predators and prey. There were strong and weak. There were leaders and followers. But now there was something new. There were humans, and anyone who chose to be like them. Not apex predators in the old sense, but something better. Protectors, builders, family. And it all started with one simple act. A woman who drank medicine meant for an alien child, who showed him that trust was possible, that vulnerability was not weakness, that accepting help was not shame, it was survival. It was hope, it was love. The transport shuttle descended through the docking bay of the Eternal Fang, and Jiwon pressed his face against the small window to get a better look. The Vorath warship was massive, easily 10 times larger than any Earth vessel he had seen. Its dark metal hull gleamed under the artificial lights, and rows of weapons dotted its surface like thorns on a rose stem. "Nervous?" Minji asked from the seat beside him. She was checking her equipment bag for the 3rd time, making sure all her research tools were secure. "A little," Jiwon admitted. 3 months is a long time to spend with aliens who might not like us very much. The Vorath had agreed to this cultural exchange only after 2 years of negotiations. They were proud warriors, respected throughout the galaxy for their military strength and discipline. But they kept to themselves, rarely allowing outsiders into their territory. Earth's diplomats had worked hard to arrange this opportunity, and Jiwon knew how important it was to make a good impression. The shuttle landed with a soft thud. Jiwon and Minji gathered their belongings and stepped out into the docking bay. The air felt different here, cooler and drier than Earth standard. A group of Vorath warriors stood waiting for them in perfect formation. Jiwon had seen pictures of the Vorath before, but seeing them in person was different. They stood tall, at least 7 feet each, with sleek fur covering their bodies in shades of gray and black. Their faces were feline, with sharp golden eyes that watched the 2 humans with obvious suspicion. Each warrior wore formal armor that gleamed in the harsh lighting. "Welcome to the Eternal Fang," said the warrior in the center. His voice was deep and formal. "I am High Commander Threxus. You will follow me to the welcome ceremony?" They walked through long corridors, their footsteps echoing off the metal walls. Other Vorath stopped what they were doing to stare at the humans. No one smiled. No one waved. They just watched with those piercing golden eyes. The grand hall was enormous. Hundreds of Vorath stood in neat rows, all at attention. At the far end of the room, a raised platform held what looked like ceremonial decorations. Threxus led them to the center of the hall, where they were supposed to present their gifts from Earth. Minji carefully removed a beautiful arrangement of Earth flowers from her bag. She had chosen them specifically because they were colorful and fragrant, representing Earth's diversity. She placed them on a small table and stepped back. "We bring these flowers as a symbol of friendship," Jiwon said, speaking clearly. "They represent the beauty and variety of life on Earth." The assembled Vorath said nothing. Their faces showed no emotion. Jiwon wondered if they were impressed or insulted or simply bored. Then something small moved near the edge of the platform. Jiwon caught the movement from the corner of his eye. A tiny Vorath cub, no bigger than a human 6-year-old, was creeping closer to get a better look at the strange aliens. The cub had lighter gray fur and huge, curious eyes. She moved silently, clearly trying not to be noticed by the adults. She was so focused on the humans that she did not see the flowers until she was right next to them. The flowers from Earth had a strong, sweet smell. The cub leaned in close, sniffing at the strange plants. Her small nose twitched. Her eyes widened. And then it happened. The sneeze was tiny and squeaky, almost like a mouse. But in the dead silence of the grand hall, it sounded like thunder. Every single Vorath froze. The entire assembly went rigid with shock. The cub's eyes grew even wider and her ears flattened against her head in obvious shame. She looked at her feet, trembling. High Commander Threxus's face went dark. His jaw tightened and his golden eyes flashed with what looked like anger or embarrassment. He took a step toward the cub, his movements stiff and controlled, and then Jiwan laughed. It was not a mean laugh or a mocking laugh. It was warm and genuine, the kind of laugh that comes from pure delight. The sound bubbled up from his chest and filled the silent hall. He smiled at the little cub, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "Oh, that was adorable," he said softly, still chuckling. The effect was instant and dramatic. Every Vorath in the hall turned to stare at him. Their expressions ranged from shock to confusion to something that might have been offense. Threxus looked like he had just heard someone insult his ancestors. "You laugh?" Threxus asked, his voice cold and hard. "At such a display of weakness?" Jiwan's smile faded as he realized his mistake. But Minji stepped forward quickly, trying to fix the situation. "On Earth, when children sneeze, we think it's cute," she explained quickly. "It's not weakness at all. It's just natural. We usually say, 'bless you,' or wish them good health. Sneezing is a failure of physical control," Threxus said, each word clipped and precise. "It is shameful. It is not to be acknowledged in public, and it is certainly not to be laughed at." The little cub was trying very hard not to cry. An older Vorath female, probably her caretaker, hurried forward and took the cub's hand, pulling her away from the flowers. The cub kept glancing back at Jiwan, confusion clear on her small face. "We apologize," Minji said quickly. "We did not understand your customs. Please forgive us." Threxus's tail lashed once, a sharp movement that spoke of controlled anger. "We will not speak of this incident again, ever. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir," Jiwan said, his earlier warmth completely gone. "You will be shown to your quarters," Threxus continued. "You will remain there until tomorrow, dismissed." 2 warriors stepped forward and gestured for the humans to follow. Jiwan picked up their bags and walked with Minji out of the grand hall. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching them leave. The silence was heavy and uncomfortable. Their assigned quarters were small and far from the main crew areas. The rooms were clean but basic, with simple furniture and dim lighting. After the door closed behind them, Minji sat down heavily on one of the beds. "Well, that could have gone better," she said. Jiwan sat across from her, thinking about the tiny cub and her squeaky sneeze. "Did you see her face? She looked so ashamed, like she had done something terrible." "Their culture is very different from ours," Minji said. "We need to be more careful." But Jiwan could not stop thinking about it. On Earth, children sneezed all the time. Parents said "bless you" and gave them tissues and maybe a hug. No one treated it like a crime. The idea that these powerful warriors were ashamed of something so natural and harmless seemed wrong somehow. He looked out the small window at the stars beyond. 3 months suddenly seemed like a very long time, and he had just made a terrible first impression on their hosts. But somewhere in this huge ship, a little cub was probably still thinking about the strange human who had laughed instead of looking away in shame. And Jiwan wondered what that might mean.